the Mendelsssohn and even more from the Rosenzweig, two things which I think would not be in Hirsch. One is a certain tentativeness. In other words, it's very open-ended.
Yeah.
What interpretation, my interpretation might not be quite the same as my interpretation tomorrow, whereas maybe in Hirsch is an attempt to
make it orthodox.
And secondly, the very radical thing in the Rosenzweig is the idea that the truth of the Torah, let's say the truth of the story of the Bilam's ass,
Right.
is constituted by the liturgical frame.
Right.
Whereas Hirsch, as an orthodox theologian, would have said no, that is, as it were, a pun. Is it true already? It's true already. The liturgy doesn't constitute its truth. So for Rosenzweig, I can say, outside this context, it's a fairy tale. Inside, inside, he's as fundamentalist, as it were, as Hirsch, but only for that hour.
Very good, yes. Because they want to preserve, that's the other thing in the Mendelsssohn too, all those Enlightenment, they want to preserve, you know, the respect for the political order, democracy, all the ideas, and also science of the Enlightenment and of the modern world. But then that's why for them liturgy was a way to preserve Judaism, to become an American or German Jew. Because outside the liturgy, you're German, but inside the liturgy, you're a Jew, right? As Jewish as your great-grandparents. So it's a strategy that does have certain consequences.
Okay. Do you want to come back now, or should we get Alex and how we
share some of these other?
Yes, absolutely.
Alex.
I can't quote verbatim back to your last line, but it referred to study as opposed to, I think, prayer. And I was asking myself throughout, the kind of language you were using is language that one might apply to, let's say, an existential experience of Jewish study outside a synagogal context at all, in the sense that imagining the direct encounter with text, whatever its origins might be presumed, serve as the point of contact with a wider body of ideas that in some ways may actually be more direct, more explicit than the layers of interpretation that are necessary to kind of make sense of strange ritual.
Yeah, well, I think that's certainly the other way to go for contemporary Jews, is, you know, Torah, and to integrate Torah learning maybe with other learning, secular learning or whatever, but I have, you know, that's, you know, Martin Buber and all that's really what he was all about. Whereas Rosenzweig was about both, but moved to liturgy. Buber never did because he couldn't. He had an aversion to synagogues. So, but Buber, you know, you've read his writings on the Bible. They're beautiful and inspiring, and I think many people can still enter in as talking about a pedagogy of Judaism through Torah study, and maybe that's easier. But I would say in more direct, as you say. But the liturgy, just for me, is deeper. And maybe it's too much. That's the other thing. Maybe our liturgy is just so rich and so opaque, and it takes a long, long time to be able to be proficient, that we can't enter, you know, our everyday Jews into it. But if they get into it, and then they also see that it does have theological meanings, and it is about teaching these at a very deep level, at another kind of level than just sitting around, then you know, okay, that's the next step. It's a deeper step for me. But other people say, you know, did synagogues throw me off altogether? I can't stand it.
Right. See, I'm surprised you kind of identify Rosenzweig as an exemplar of the liturgical approach, in that the whole Lehrhaus project is about coming from the outside to the inside through study, and that Rosenzweig himself, his practice of prayer was idiosyncratic too. So, you know,
it was part 3. This is part 3 of the Star of Redemption. Part 2 is probably more Lehrhaus. It's more Buber study, and obviously he translated the Bible with Buber. But there was another, I mean, he said, Rosenzweig, you know, we think he was going to become a Christian, and remember he returned, and we think it's because he went to a shtiebel for Yom Kippur, right? So there's also autobiography in Rosenzweig's liturgical stuff.
I was struck when you gave the description of the Kriyat Shema.
Right.
And there seems to be somewhat of a tension there between the way it's described, the Shinamtam Banecha, the Dibarta Bam, and then on the other hand, when it's minimized in terms of the centrality of the learning experience, or the temporal nature of the learning experience. So how then can one, according to the Rosenzweig approach here, how can one understand the Kriyat Shema in a way that makes some type of sense of, on the one hand, B'shinamtam le'benecha b'dibarta bam, that's an B'shivtecha b'beitecha, it's an ongoing, constant commandment. It's not an experiential type of moment, but rather it's something which is for your life. It's something which is stated in terms of how often it's really very clearly articulated versus the type of interpretation given to the Kriyat Shema, the way you presented it.
Right. I think that, you know, there's two elements of it. If you outside of the synagogue, if you want to study something about what does it mean to say Adonai Echad, right? Well, okay, so you can go look at Maimonides, and he'll talk about, you know, the uniqueness of God, and it's a oneness unlike any other oneness, and that's okay. Maybe, as we know, it creates certain problems because if the oneness of God is different than any other oneness, and anything that I say about God is different than, you know, the Maimonides thing. You know, that you end up with a kind of a negative theology, right? So, how do I experience that oneness? Now that maybe that's helpful, but maybe it's really when you're in the shul and you're trying to concentrate your attention in the shul, that oneness of God comes to you in a way that Maimonides can't bring it to you, even though Maimonides might be helpful to you. So I mean, these two things don't have to be in opposition.
Yeah, but in this particular case, when it says study the Torah everywhere, and it's very, very clear.
Right. In
your home, when you're walking, it's an all-encompassing. It's not just when you're in the synagogue, but it's something which is prescribed. It's really something which is, it's a commandment.
Right.
So I'm just curious about the tension.
We're talking about here, about the liturgical context.
But yeah, in some ways you're doing
it twice a day. You don't say it all the time.
But no, I mean.
No, we don't say Shema all the time. We say it twice a day.
No, but I'm talking about
3 times a day.
This is I think one of the things that the liturgy did was the commandment of the Shema is so all-encompassing. We wouldn't do anything if we really fulfilled the Shema as we have it in the Torah. So what the rabbis do is to make it, we do that with a lot of us, right? To make it doable. So okay, accessible.
Right.
So it's just like, you know, we can do repentance at every moment, right? You're supposed to, but we create Yom Kippur, so because human beings need a focus. So I think we could give that. Is
that explicitly stated anywhere? That's a very interesting idea.
What, the thing about...
No, about the fact that the liturgy here is really a medium to try and realize that kind of commandment on a more realistic way.
Right. So the minimum is not necessarily do it all day long, but do it one morning and the evening.
No, Shimon Ben Yochai conceptualized Shema as Kriyat Torah, not as Kabbalat Olmot Shamayim. So then it was really just studying Torah morning and night, and that was it. And you would say that.
Right.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to actually.
Sorry. Martin,
No, I've spoken about it.
Be very patient.
No, I'll be even more. So.
You chose two authors that, and you developed the whole issue about liturgy, and I liked it very much. You just barely spoke about these two authors they translated the Bible into German.
Buber and
Rosenzweig and Mendelsssohn.
Oh yeah, also Mendelsssohn as well. Yes.
The three also Buber. Well, you know the story.
Yes.
But could you speak a little bit about the issue of translation, because it's not only for the Jewish people, but it implies also the German people knowing the Bible. So could you relate in any sort of way, or why do you think it's just casual to find Mendelsssohn and Rosenzweig speaking about liturgy and also translating the Bible?
Well, I think those were two. Look, with the modernity, right? We already lose a whole big swaths of halakha, right? Because we're using the civil law of Germany, whatever. So, and the Jews are integrated supposedly into the modern political order. What can we hold on to? There are two things that the German Jewish philosophers in America we can hold on to in diaspora is study of Torah and going to shul on at least one day a week, Saturday, like they go Sunday. So those are two access points that allowed Jews to be German Jews, both German during the week and Jewish during whatever they study or when they go to shul. So that's one reason why I think they focused on those two things. But I don't know if that's really answering your question.
Why translating all this Jewish, let's say Jewish experience into the German world? Because Jews are Germans.
They didn't know Hebrew.
Right, they didn't know. I mean, they see themselves. I mean, in some ways, we had this huge wave of people just converting. We still have it, secular. So, I think that's one of the challenges of Jewish pedagogy. How do we translate our thick Jewish, Hebrew, Yiddish, whatever traditions into the contemporary vernacular, even the Israeli vernacular? It just it's so foreign. And that's what Jewish, I think Jewish philosophy, Jewish theology is about. As you say, translating, finding ways of speaking about Jewish culture, Jewish religion, etc., in ways that people that are even Jews who were not born into it in the same way that Orthodox. I think I do a lot with Muslims. One of the crucial things why Islam is still so foreign, they don't have good books yet. They don't have good teachers that can translate Islam into a more open vernacular. It's still totally closed in. What goes on in those madrasas? Who knows? I mean, we have the worst fears, and maybe it's I don't know what goes on in Qum in Iran. I'm sure there's a lot of crap that we hate as Jews and Westerners, but they're studying all day. I mean, I bet there's also stuff that's really insanely with our yeshivot, and we have some. In other words, we don't really know what generates. You got 1 billion people. What generates the power of Islam? I'm just beginning to learn it, and I've been studying it for 10 years. And there's not good access points. But we in Judaism, we got it on this earlier. Mendelsssohn, 18th century. We actually do have some great ways of bringing people in.
I'm just thinking about what would be his critique of the Christian world around him using the same tools that you started with, in terms of when you took us in the earlier part there, the question of idolatry and the way that he would look at Christian practice around him. Is there an articulation of that? I'm particularly interested in Mendelsson's response.
Oh, Mendelsssohn. Well, he can't, he can't really critique Christianity. It's now 18th century in Germany. He's lucky that they're listening to him. He was the Nathan the Wise. He was the one Jew that But it's implicit. But also the other part of there's an implicit critique. But the other part of Jerusalem, you know, he has a great theory of tolerance. So he's very, very big on tolerance. And I guess he would probably follow the Maimonidean school that Christianity is not idolatrous. But if you look at their liturgy, that would be, it's another interesting way of going in and saying, well, does this look like, you know, what is the difference between a pagan liturgy and a Jewish liturgy, and a monotheistic? I've been thinking about that. I'm not sure I totally get it, but that would be another way in to do a critique. But Mendelsson's not going to do it, because they, you know, they squash him. But you know, Rosenzweig developed. You know, you've probably heard the two covenant theory. That you know, that God, that it's the Jewish responsibility to stay within the Jewish world, within the synagogue, and do our rituals, and not be missionary. And it's the job of Christianity to bring monotheism to the world. That was, you know, so he had actually the first Jewish theology of Christianity. But again, the kind of Christianity he's talking about, his friends are the high-level intellectual, you know, German. I don't know if, you know, it's, you know, they're really thick. I don't know again as much about the Protestant liturgies, but they're not as thickly, obviously, can have contagion with paganism as the Catholic Church, which I was spent 6 weeks at. I mean, that's really, you know, they got those relics right there. Every church has to have a relic. Did you know that? Catholic Church. A piece of a finger or something.
They finally drew blood from John Paul.
I'm sure they did.
Something very important.
Okay.
I think it's heresy not to believe.
Make sure he was dead.
I have a couple of comments to what's been said so far, but first I just want to comment on when we go in the order backward, kind of like.
Yes, sir.
So first I want to comment about Chaim. What Chaim asked, I thought, the way I learned Enlightenment in Hebrew University, Jewish Enlightenment thinkers, is that to a great extent, part of their response was, and they would never say it was anti-Christian, but if I have to choose what is truly a rational, the closest, if I'm a big believer in natural religion and rational religion, then my choice has got to be Judaism, because of the nonsense that you have in Christianity versus, and that's I thought was Mendelsson's position, and Friedlander, who basically said, you know, if you guys, you know, will get rid of some of your absurd kind of irrational beliefs, we can create a new religion that we can share. We don't have to have Jews.
The religion of reason, right?
Yeah. So I think there is an internal polemic. Maybe it's not stated because of the political issue that you raised.
Right.
That's one. Two, I want to say something about Renato's question. If I understood his question,
right.
And I guess you can get back to me if I misunderstood, but that he was, I think, asking something that I think is sociologically problematic, or at least has some position that doesn't work, I think. And that is that in some ways, these translations and this work in general was essentially had a very important element of going out towards the goyim. And I would say that I think it's much more generally a defensive, these are defensive moves to survive or to make Judaism alive and kicking for Jews in the context of the culture, and not to go out and try to translate the Torah so that Germans will benefit from the great insights of the Torah. He says,
just a little of that, but yeah.
Martin Luther already translated.
Right.
Third, I just want to mention, my last point, was the point I really wanted to make. I just want to mention that I know that he's probably not very popular. I didn't see, I just had in commentary, they totally critiqued him, but I see Waskow's project in some way as perhaps a very radical attempt, but to anchor a kind of, I don't call it progressive radical humanism in Jewish texts. So I don't know if that you were speaking about talking about the whole his whole project, which I find frankly interesting. Now, I want to get to the last one.
You find it interesting?
Yeah, even attractive, to be honest.
Okay.
To a certain extent, there's a certain new age there that I'm on kind of old age, but in the context of being an old ager, I like some of the stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But having said that, I want to just get to the major point that I really made. It's really made to everything he's been saying. That is, I personally am convinced more or less, or I identify very much with Buber's take, in which you mentioned in passing he didn't like synagogue.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'd like to say that I think his position, I mean, that's true. That is definitely true. But I would say that I'd like to maybe we don't have the chance to hear in this context or discuss it in greater depth. But he did have some senses that somehow, despite all the wonderful intentions of halachic Judaism, which is indeed to translate in crucial experiences, theological experience, events, into some kind of living language, you know, that reenacting, that so often, in his understanding, and I personally agree with him, so often that which is the symbol becomes more important than the symbolized.
Right.
Okay, that whole issue. Okay, and that's why, you know, there's a famous story. I think a story. This in Jerusalem Circus, a big story about Buber and Simon. Remember Simon? The story. Simon was Rosenzweig and Buber was.
Right. Yeah.
And the story has it. I don't know if it's true.
Yeah.
But Simon had this principle that he would not use the phone on Shabbat. Right. However, he informed all his closest friends that if they ring the phone, if the phone would ring 10 times, he'd understand it's pikuach nefesh. Yeah. You know, it's saving his soul, and he lifts up. And they say that Buber sometimes got into some of his cute moods, and he would do that. And then when Simon would answer the phone, he'd say, "Ha ha, Shabbat," you know, to try to break him out of this halakhic, you know, mode of thinking. But however, the point I want to get
nice, right?
Really? I would say that Buber was not probably a very nice guy, according to all the stories I've heard. But that's a different story. He didn't practice the idea as much as he preached it, but that's very often with philosophers. But what I did want to get as far as I really don't understand this. It's a radical journalist who's a religious person of Leibovich. He's influenced by. He calls it poker psukim. I can now call that poker psukim. I call it poker liturgy. Yeah. It seems to me it's so much a question of what we invest. It's not like these rituals or these liturgies stand up and say what they mean. Right. It's the meanings that we invest in them that makes them count or not count. Right. As a result of that, I get always, I'm not nervous, I don't understand people who go this route that think that they can, you know, the route of saying that I'm going, you know, I'm enacting various things in this way, they mean this, when, look what's going on here. I mean, when the worlds that have been produced, I'm talking about the cultural, spiritual worlds that have been produced by people all committed, let's say, to the same rabbinic legacy, and what's the product? And the product is a result of human investment in construction, interpretation of text. So then I wonder about what, you follow what I'm saying? What's this text all about? Why? How can you said, I'm sorry, I'm taking too much. Well, if you take, you said, you know, it's remarkable. I think you said, oh, you really like it, you're impressed. And I say, I mean, good. I mean, nice. Right. I mean, I believe you can create a halakhic humanism, but you can also create a halakhic fascism. Yeah. Look around. So I mean, so what's the point?
Well, the point is, partly at least, I think the importance of oral law, or oral. That's what Mendelsssohn is saying. He's saying that, in some ways, by definition, Jewish liturgy is opaque. We don't understand. It doesn't come out and say. So it's dependent upon the teachers, the pedagogy, and as you say, someone like Hirsch or Rosenzweig created a kind of a humanistic halakhic Judaism, right? But that was dependent upon, you know, there's the inside context and then there's the outside context. So it's dependent upon pedagogy and good rabbis and good, that's what we're trying to create, right? The thing about Judaism, all religions, but Judaism especially, it's extremely malleable. We're given, like, it's like cooking, right? You're given these raw ingredients and you look at the Talmud, can you make sense of it? Well, it takes a whole lifetime, but then you got to put it together. That's why in some ways, it's such a great creative, but you can put it together in horrible ways. And then the Catholic Church says, okay, we're not going to let you put it together, we're going to create doctrines. And then Judaism is on the other thing. That's what Mendelsssohn started. We have prescribed behaviors, not prescribed doctrines. He's right there, he's just told you whether he's right or not. But I think, you know, it's one version that we don't have doctrines, that means we rely in some ways more on our teachers and our rabbis than other religions that are so doctrinaire that it's very clear that Jesus came and saved you and, you know, you're done. We don't have that. So it's incumbent upon us as teachers, Melton or whatever we are, where I am at Colgate, to really create that humanistic, whatever we want Judaism in a better image than, and what's happening in the world now. I think we all got to figure it out. We're not exactly sure. Why is it that this ethical, monotheistic, humanistic Judaism is basically in trouble? It's not attracting, and the stuff that we think is rather horrible, unfortunately, is growing, and we've got to figure that out. I mean, that's another talk. That's probably, you know, what we spend our lives doing, trying to figure that out. And how are we going to enter in that, again, as pedagogues, to repair that? But, yeah, Judaism, what do you want?
We just have time for one more comment or question. Anybody? You want to say in conclusion?
Oh no, just thank you very much. It's a great conversation. It's great to get your ideas out there and play them off such
we would like
many people as you. So
we'd like to thank you very much for coming and sharing your ideas. And Stephen will be actually giving a guest talk in Menachem and my class on the Siddur in Jewish education at 6:15 this evening. And if anyone wants to join us for more, they're welcome to come along then. I forgot to say at the beginning that Gabi Orenchik, our director, apologizes that he couldn't be here because he had an important meeting in the School of Education. He delayed his apologies.
And Yonatan Cohen, my brother.
Because he's Rosh Hachug, I think he had to be in the same meeting. So
it's all right. He's heard this 3 times.
No, but it's like the Shema, you have to.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.